Hi everyone. Okay, so this afternoon, it's Sunday afternoon right now, August 1st. Can you believe July is gone already? We're already starting August. I'm going to try and just make a very basic standby recipe that is one of my daughter's favorites. It's just a banana bread. One of my favorite cookbook series are these, the Company's Coming series. If you're watching this from the US, I don't know if you have these or can find these cookbooks in the US, but they're very common here in Canada. And I like these because there's a lot of very common everyday ingredients in them, and they're pretty simple to follow instructions. Usually when I do these, quite often I will do double batches of things, just because then one goes in the freezer and one to eat now. All I need in this recipe, one thing I noticed, is that it does take butter or margarine, and I only just took these out of the fridge right now, so they're not at room temperature yet, which will be hard to beat. So I'm going to just let these sit out for a little bit before I even attempt to make most of the batter, but I will at least get started on crushing the bananas. The recipe calls for half a cup of butter or margarine, so if I'm doubling it, that means it's 1 cup, so I've got 2 sticks of butter, a cup of sugar, so in this case it'll be 2 cups, 2 eggs, so 4 cups instead of 2, 1 cup of medium mashed ripe bananas, so it'll be 2 cups in this case, 1 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour, so again doubling that, baking soda, baking powder, salt, and chopped walnuts, which are optional, but I sometimes do like to put them in. Sometimes I just make very plain banana bread, no nuts, no chocolate chips, no nothing. Sometimes I do with nuts and chocolate chips, or just chocolate chips and no nuts. This time I think I will do the nuts and the chocolate chips, because you have the option here, banana chip bread, to add 3/4 cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips to the batter as well. So I think I'm going to do that. What I will do for right now is get the bananas mashed up at the very least, and hopefully it won't take too long for the butter to come to room temperature. It's been pretty hot weather here, so I mean, we do have air conditioning in the house, so the house isn't really hot, but nonetheless it will take a little bit of time, and I don't want to just start mixing with butter that came freshly out of the fridge, because it won't blend very easily. It will, but it takes more work than if it's a little bit softened. So I'll put the bananas, get them mashed up, set them aside, and then I'll come back to this in a bit. Ruby got loose on the counter yesterday, and you can see that she chewed the ends off 2 of the bananas. So I might as well use a couple of those. Hopefully I'll have enough bananas here to make the double batch. I'll have a pretty good idea once I get 1 cup of bananas mashed. I'll have an idea whether I have enough to make 2 cups or not, and if not, I'll just make a single batch instead of a double. I'll just grab a measuring cup here. And I suppose I could probably use my potato masher, but I don't know, quite often for mashing bananas, especially if they're relatively ripe and soft, then quite often I just use a fork. So, end off there after the peel. See how far this gets me. I'm hoping to have enough for 2 cups, but that may use up most of the bananas I have in the house in that case. So we'll see. Take that dark end off there. Okay, let's get these first couple mashed up and see how far we get. They're not super overripe bananas, so they're not super soft, but they're soft enough that just a fork will suffice. Although, if I do get some bananas that are overripe and they're very easy to mash, those are easiest to work with. But this time of year, though, you don't want to have fruit sitting on your counter that gets too overripe, because you're going to wind up with fruit flies. It's that time of year. Usually in August, that's when they start showing up. If you leave anything out that is a ripe fruit, or even a bag of potatoes at room temperature for that matter, it will attract them. Or even sometimes leaving garbage in the can too long inside. And I do have a way of getting rid of fruit flies if we get them, but they're a pain. I'd rather just prevent getting them in the first place if I can avoid it. Okay, this isn't too bad. Yeah, I think we'll have enough for 2 cups, because this is already a good bit just from 2 bananas. I think 3 will make 1 cup, so I think... It just makes more sense to me to make a double batch of some things. If I'm already in baking mode anyway, it's not that much extra effort. Oh yeah, it'll be at 1 cup before we know it, so I might as well just go ahead and make 2. just makes more sense to me if I'm already in baking or cooking mode anyway to just, in some cases, not in everything, like not if I'm making a roast turkey or something, but in some things it makes sense to just double up and make a double batch and freeze half. Or especially if I'm doing something like a meal train delivery for church where we have to take a meal to a family, then if I have to take a second, make something for them, I might as well make something for us at the same time and one for them. You're already on your feet and in baking mode anyway, and as long as I have sufficient ingredients to make two, then why not? Let's see where we sit after these two are done. Oops. Those are a little harder to mash, but not bad. It is another warm day out there. Just popped into my work for a few minutes to get something done in the office and came back home and started this. And unfortunately, because we're in drought conditions here and it's been so hot and so dry with no rain this summer, there's been forest fires in some of our provincial parks not far away, like where there's a lot of trees. Just there's a fire ban on, but now finally, it's very smoky in the air. We're in a large city here, but some of the areas where the fires are not more than a couple of hours from here, and so the smoke is quite thick in the air today. Some days aren't as bad, but today you can really breathe it in the air and you can really smell it too. We're about at the 1.5 cup mark, so one more for sure. Maybe 1.5 bananas, which is no problem if we only use half. I mean, the other half can just be eaten either by myself or one of our birds eat. A lot of our birds actually like bananas, so maybe one more smaller one actually, probably just a second little one. These two will probably be enough. I don't think we need to. That leaves me with 2 little bananas in my bowl. It's not much, but I like to buy bananas when I go to grocery shopping just for eating, but I do also use them in baking, like banana chocolate chip muffins or banana bread like this. These guys mashed up. This will be plenty to make 2 cups. And then I will probably just put some saran wrap over the measuring cup until I'm ready to make the rest of it, because I do need the butter to soften, and that won't be instant. So I will set this aside, and then maybe what I'll do is go downstairs and start a little laundry in the washing machine while I wait for the butter to soften up to room temperature. I don't want to mess around with putting it in like the microwave on low or something, because then it's liable to go, you know, if I'm not paying attention, like it might soften it, but it might, if I'm not paying attention, it might actually start to like melt and go liquidy on me. And then we got another problem, because I don't think the banana bread is not meant to have like melted butter in it. It's supposed to be room temperature butter, but not runny, like liquidy melted butter. Okay, this is actually a little over the 2 cup mark, but that's okay. It's just have to watch how long it bakes in the oven for, that's all. It's actually at the 2 cup mark. It may be a smidge over, but not desperately. It just means if it's a bit of extra moisture in there, you just have to watch if you give it adequate time for baking, that's all. Okay. So that is where we're at. Got our 2 cups of banana. We'll just leave that, set it aside. I'm going to cover it up so that we don't attract fruit flies or anything like that to it. And I'll come back to this in a little bit and work on adding the other ingredients once I know that the butter is down to room temperature. See you in a bit. Okay, while we wait for the butter to soften, why not start a little laundry, right? The never-ending chore, the gift that keeps on giving. And again, I don't think I have enough stuff to make just a large dark load or a large color load, so I think we're going to combine the two. It should be fine. None of the things going in here are so dark colored or so bright colored that they will color anything else. I think we should be okay. Oops, dropped a sock. Just leave any whites out though. That's where I draw the line. That's the only stuff that won't go in here. Amazing how quickly laundry generates. I swear it reads while I sleep. Okay, anything else that's in there is basically white, so it's not going in that load. Not a huge load, but drop the laundry tab in there. I used to put the laundry tabs in the little drawer up here, but I find that they don't all fully dissolve if I put them in there, so I just resorted now to, if I'm going to occasionally use liquid detergent, I'll just put liquid in that drawer, and the tab I'll just throw in the actual tub of the machine, in the drum. Just normal, and let's just hope that I don't find any more laundry kicking around in my daughter's room that needed to have been brought down. But I'll go check, and if there is something, I can push the pause button on this and unlock it and add it to the load. Okay, I'll be back. We should see you back in the kitchen in a bit. Okay, we are back, and it is time to start making the banana bread. Okay, so I'm going to use my stand mixer. Again, we have the bananas that I already mashed. The 2 sticks of butter, they're not completely soft, but they're definitely, I can squeeze them now. I can definitely put prints in them. Ham is what I use to spray my baking pans with. Baking soda, baking powder. This is not a bucket of chicken, even though that's what it says. That's where I keep my chocolate chips inside. Walnut pieces. And I have a grinder to put those through. Granulated sugar, and down here is my flour. And here's my nut grinder. This would be my nut grinder. You put the nuts in there, turn the crank, it grinds them up into much smaller bits. Okay, so what are we going to do here? And I am doing a double batch, so I'm not doing half a cup of butter, I'm doing 1 cup. So I'm doing 2 sticks of butter. Okay, oops, this has been in here. Let me get this a little white. So these are now soft enough to be able to be creamed with the sugar. Should. It's definitely better than it was. They were like ice cold before. I would have taken them out in advance to soften, but I couldn't remember if these took butter or oil. I think my banana chocolate chip muffins, which is a different recipe, which is silly because I could totally use this recipe and just make it into muffins, but I have a different banana chocolate chip muffin recipe, and I think that one takes oil. And I think I had it in my head that this banana bread recipe took oil, and therefore I didn't have to worry about taking butter out to soften. But I was mistaken. I know that one takes one and one takes the other. Should have checked. But anyway, we're getting started. It's better than never. It's only 3:25. It's not that bad. Not too worried about supper tonight because we made that shepherd's pie last night, so we're okay. So our leftovers. So I need 2 cups of sugar. Oh, I didn't take the eggs out of the fridge. That I need to do. 2 cups of sugar. I've been using a lot of sugar this summer because I've been making a lot of jam. Each batch of jam takes 6 to 7 cups of sugar, so I've been using a lot of sugar. These 10 kilogram bags, or 10 kilogram or 22 pound bags of sugar are the way to go when you're making jam, because especially if you're making more than one batch. Like I've made like almost 100 jars of jam again. So I made how many batches? 5 or 6 different flavors so far. So if you're making any amount of jam, paying the price for the bigger batch bag of sugar is usually the way to go, rather than buying a bunch of smaller ones. Last year I made almost 200 jars, 11 different flavors. I think I've made 5 or 6 different flavors so far this year. And I haven't even gotten choke cherries or wild blueberries or crab apples yet. So, I don't know. I would like to make peach and pear jam, and if I do get blueberries or crab apples or choke cherries, I'll make those too. In which case, instead of the 5 or 10 batches, 5 or 6 flavors I've made so far, it'll be more like 10 flavors. So it'll be comparable to last year in that case. So that is creaming. I know I don't have this sitting up high enough for you to be able to see in the mixing bowl, but you'll have to take my word for it. The butter is soft enough that it's creaming pretty good. Once I get some of the eggs in here, that'll definitely help. So for vegan eggs, one at a time, which is what I'll do, but I'll probably, I don't know. I find it easier to turn this off and lift this up and add the egg, and I don't know how I want to keep lowering it and reheating up to every single egg. I might just put all 4 in there. Or I could dip it out and do them as the recipe exactly calls for. I'm not a stickler when it comes to something like that. Some recipes are very, very, very specific and particular, and you gotta follow right to the other. This one, if I add them one at a time as it says, great, and if I do it a different way, it's probably not the end of the world either. Oh, there's exactly 4 eggs left in here. Perfect. Yeah, I'm going to do it this way. It's getting very, it's well blended, but I see I have a habit of just doing all 4 eggs and then mixing them. So that's what I mean, like I don't have to be completely precise with this. It's not like I'm doing some kind of specialty cake that is going to break down or wither if I don't do it perfect. Banana bread is kind of it's a hard one to mess up, really. Some recipes are very hard to, very finicky. This one is, you know, not to say that I could do it with my eyes closed or anything like that. I still have to be careful. But if I put all 4 eggs in right now, as opposed to 1 at a time, it's probably not going to be the end of the world. As long as it's well beaten. There we go. That carton is now empty, but I will keep it because that flat of eggs I bought in my grocery haul, I can divide them into cartons. Hi, Cricket. Cricket is joining me in the kitchen to watch everything that is happening. 1 second here. I don't know if he'll start chirping or if he'll land on my shoulder, if he'll start talking. Nobody knows. I guess we'll wait and see. He likes to be where the people are. He's a social creature, that one. Okay, so we're adding eggs, beating, add the mashed bananas and blend in. So once the eggs are fairly blended, I'll pour in the mashed bananas. That's blending quite well. I do have you at least on my little tripod that's for the phone. So that's a step in the right direction. There's no camera shake or whatever today for today's video, but I don't have it. It's kind of a funny little tripod. It doesn't extend high enough for me to raise it up and have it looking down into the bowl for you to be watching the mix, actually. But the batter is looking good right now. Like, it's looking exactly as it should. The butter is very well creamed. The eggs make a difference. And now here go the bananas. All 2 cups of them, because remember I am doing a double batch. Normally it would be 2 eggs and 1 cup of bananas and half a cup of butter, or 1 stick. But because I'm doubling it, everything's times 2. Okay. Now I think technically in a separate bowl, you're supposed to do the dry ingredients in a separate bowl and then either add this to that bowl or that to this bowl. But again, I'm not being too particularly fussy. I'm probably just going to add the dry ingredients directly to this. If you're a real purist when it comes to baking, and that's a terrible sin, forgive me. This is just for ease more than anything else. A little bit of butter needs to get in there. Ooh, I didn't lock that one in place that time. My mistake, but still. Okay, so doing? We have to have flour with baking soda, baking powder, and nuts. Well, saying we need what? 1 3/4 cups of flour. I've got my 1 cup here. So that would be 2 3/4, 2.5 cups, I believe. Or, you know, rather than try and do mental math, I just might do it exactly and just simply get the 3/4 cup and do the 1 cup twice and the 3/4 cup twice, rather than, pretty sure that 3.5 would be correct, but nonetheless I would have to get a 1/2 cup out, so why not just get the 3/4 cup out and do it as it says, rather than, because normally if I was baking I can do it pretty well, no problem, but because I'm talking to you guys, I'm trying to multitask, and that might mean I might make a mistake, so better to just do it as the recipe says, even though I'm not doing it as the recipe says in that I'm not putting it in a separate bowl, but just as far as the counting, because I'm one of those that if it says to put 4 cups of something or 5 cups in something, I try my best to count, and usually by the time I get to the second or third bowl, I've somehow or other lost count. I try not to, and I set out every time going, okay, this time I won't lose count, and usually, inevitably, I do. More often than not, I think it works out. I do get it right, but I stress myself out doing that. Second 3/4 cup. There we go. And baking powder. Baking soda is 1 teaspoon, so that'll be 2 teaspoons. Baking powder and salt are each 1/2 teaspoon, so 1 teaspoon then. So I need the 1 teaspoon is all I need. So it's baking soda is 1 teaspoon, so I need 2 teaspoons of that because it's double. I know that when you do this in a separate bowl, the whole point is to mix the dry ingredients together, whereas right now I'm putting the baking soda on top of the flour. But the stand mixer, like, it will mix things quite thoroughly. It's pretty good for that. Baking powder is 1/2 teaspoon, therefore I'm doing 1 teaspoon because I'm doubling. That is more like a heaping teaspoon. I don't want to overdo it on that. There we go. That's better. And my salt is over on my stove. I need to grab that. Actually, I need to get those pens out of the oven and preheat the oven to 350. I'm going to get that started. Take these pans out of the oven again so that they don't, they live in there, and I tend to forget them in there sometimes, and I don't want that. Alright, so now my salt. Again, the recipe says 1/2 cup or 1/2 teaspoon, but because I'm doubling, it's 1 teaspoon. There we go. And I know it says to add the nuts as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this started blending, and then I'll work on grinding the nuts. I'm not going to put this on a high speed right now because the flour is like right on top and I don't want it splashing out. Once it's a little more blended, then I'll put a bit more in. Okay, so my walnuts. Walnuts are 1 cup, so I'm going to need 2 cups. So, that looks a little better. Make sure it's all very well blended. Take this off to the side a bit here. Okay. My nuts, yeah, there we go. Had a momentary lapse looking for the walnut bag right in front of me. Great big yellow bag, and I couldn't see it. Alright, so I'm not sure how much this takes, but I know it's 1 cup for a single batch, so I need 2. I'm just going to put a few in here. The only thing, like, this is much simpler than having to chop them by hand. Much easier. And especially when I do my rum balls at Christmas, which I think takes something like 2 cups of chopped pecans, having a grinder like this is so much easier. The only thing though, I have to hold this still while I crank it. And the only thing is just gripping the handle like this. I do have carpal tunnel in my wrist, and sometimes this will get the numbness going or the tingling going a bit in my wrist. So I have to, the sooner I'm done grinding this, the happier I am. But nonetheless, it is much easier than chopping these little nuts on the counter. Very tedious, that is. And I can't tell you where I got this from. I believe it was just from a local thrift store. So you can see what's happening there. It goes through the little blade's kind of at the bottom when I'm cranking. I don't know if you're seeing that or not, but it's okay. And I'm not going to measure it out yet because I know that's not 2 cups. But I'll put some more in there. And once I get a decent amount in there, then I'll pour it into the 1 cup measuring cup. And if I've gotten a full cup, then I know that I'm well on my way to my second half. Yeah, I see, I can feel my fingers are already getting a little tingly from doing this. And I still have to get my loaf pans out too, from underneath the cupboard. Decent amount there. I don't think that's 2 cups by any means, but okay. In there. Okay. Where are we at here? We're only not even quite at the 1 cup mark. Okay, we got a little more work yet to do. Good thing I bought a nice large bag of the walnuts. Buying big bags of nuts at the grocery store, even at Superstore where prices are pretty good, is not cheap, but it's still cheaper than buying a bunch of the smaller bags. It's better to buy these larger packs. And depending on if we're eating it at home, it's no big deal because there's no nut allergies here. But if I'm giving this to somebody or taking it to a church function or a potluck, I probably would not put any nuts at all in, just because if you don't know your audience, if you don't know if there's any nut allergies, it's just better not to mess around. Not to take chances. But if it's just for the 3 of us here, ooh, now see that thumb is hurting from having to hold this still on this side. But as I said, using the grinder is still much easier than having to cut it all by knife. So it's a little tender, a little bit sore right now, but it's very, very temporary discomfort for the convenience of this. A couple of crumbs coming up there. Fill this here. It's pretty close to a cup. It's not bad. Doesn't have to be precise. For this anyway, because it is just for our family too. It doesn't have to be completely perfect. Okay, a little bit more to get a 2nd cup yet. Or at least the majority of a 2nd cup. Like I said, I honestly can't tell you where to buy these. I don't even know if these are made anymore. This was just found in a thrift store, actually. So I don't even know if you can find these again or not. Maybe if you look on eBay or something like that, or another site, something like that, you might be able to find an old vintage style, like something like this again. Because I don't even know if they make them. I haven't seen these in like modern appliances at all. Okay. So when I get this finished, these must be stubborn. I got a little bit down the bottom there. This should be, if not a full 2 cups, it should be pretty darn close, which is fine if it's a little bit shy of that. We don't love nuts so much in this house that we have to have, but it just gives it a little bit of extra flavor, a little bit of extra something to it. Okay. Oh. That wasn't what I was trying to do. Just trying to shake those directly in there with that beater in the way. It kind of got in the way. Oh yeah, this is pretty darn close to a 2nd cup here. Counter is clean, so I'm just going to scoop those little crumbs up with it too, because that will top up the 2nd cup. Okay, well, some crumbs in there too. Okay, that's it for the nuts. Alright, so the nuts are it, and then it's basically adding the chocolate chips, which it says to use 3/4 cup. So that's what I will do, but I'll do it twice because I'm doing double. Just like I did 2 cups of nuts instead of 1 for a double batch. 3/4 cup would be 1.5 cups, but rather than get the 1/2 cup out, I'll just do 3/4 cups times 2. I've already I got the 3/4 cup out from doing the flour. Probably use the mini chocolate chips as well, but whichever. Okay, this is the last ingredient to go in. I know it says like stir just to moisten, but when doing a double batch, I'm just gonna let the stand mixer do the job. I'm gonna put it up to a second or third speed just to really let it get mixed in. Okay. Now, I will have to grease my loaf pans. I want to get all this off the beater so I can take the beater off. And I am going to take my spatula to the bowl because there's a little bit on the side of the bowl that didn't get fully blended in. I want to get this beater cleaned mostly off before I do that. Normally I would just offer the beater to my daughter to lick or something, you know, lick the beater clean. But she is at work, so that's not going to happen today. Oh, this is stuck on here for some reason. There we go. And it's all over my hands because I had to fight with it. Usually that beater comes off much easier. And this means because my hand is sticky, that means the handle of the spatula is getting sticky. Yuck. But that's okay. This is off. Rinse my hand off primarily. My hand and the handle. There's a little bit of stuff on this side here that didn't get fully blended in. And sometimes in that very bottom well of the stand mixer, sometimes there's a bit of dry ingredients, but I think it's good. I think it's mostly good here. Okay, that's all I was after. Now to get the mixing bowls, or mixing bowls, help me. Loaf pans. One is slightly smaller than the other, so I know that one will take a few minutes longer in the oven than the other, but that's fine. I still fold them, still fill both of them significantly full, and just set my timer and monitor them basically. That's all you can do. Fine. Okay. Now, I had another bottle of Pam that I was on the go. Before I open that new one, I'll use this one up first. I feel like it's almost empty, so I know some people prefer to grease it or butter it, and maybe even flour, especially butter or grease. Or like butter or oil, but I often use Pam. And again, if you're more of a purist when it comes to baking and you prefer to use oil or butter, that is okay. That's entirely fine. This is just my preference. It doesn't seem to affect the baking time or the flavor or anything like that. So, and this one is now empty, which is why I brought the other one up. I don't think I'll need it because I think these are well greased. That corner, but that's okay. Even if I don't need much of this one, at least I'll have it in the cupboard for next time I cook. There we go. Just want to make sure I can pop these out of the pans no problem later, especially because I'm going to be wrapping one and freezing it. Now to divide this up into the loaf pans. Won't be completely even, obviously, because they are not quite the same size loaf pan, but that is okay. I'll still fill both of them 2/3 to 3/4 full. And I just have to monitor the baking time. Cricket was in the kitchen a while ago. I don't know where he went. He left a while ago. He might be in the living room. Maybe he went back to his cage. Nobody knows. Usually if I'm in here, usually he wants to hang around and chatter away. Or be on my shoulder, especially if he sees I'm working with food. but I hear him. He's probably in the living room looking out the window or something. I do hear Ruby in the dining room chattering away with her high-pitched sounds. She seems to make more sounds than words at this point. I've been told that she has a vocabulary and has other words, but that's fine, it'll come. It's August 1st today. We adopted her July 1st. That's the day we brought her home, so we've had her 1 month. So hard to believe it's been a month, but at the same time, it's only been a month, so she's still adapting to us. And we're still adapting to her in some ways, too. It will take time, especially for a big bird like that. They can be moody, finicky. I'm thankful she's adjusted to us as well as she has. After spending 15 years with her first owner and 5 years with her last owner, I'm surprised that in a month we've bonded with her as well as we have. I mean, I like her, but just gaining her trust is all I mean. It's big birds like that, sometimes they're hard to get them to trust you. The oven is preheated, so that's right on time. That's good. Good timing. Tedious getting this out of here. It's not like liquidy, like cake batter that you can just pour. You can pour it kind of, but it's thick. It's just easier. This way I don't want to have like an overflow where I pour it out too fast in one baking pan and then all of a sudden there's no batter for the other one. Oh, dropped a bit. That's okay, it's just a drop. It wasn't a large spill. Again, this is not a gourmet thing or dessert. This is just a banana bread with walnuts and chocolate chips. It's pretty basic, but it's a family favorite. My daughter likes it. She likes a lot of my baking. And it's funny because she graduated high school in 2018 and she took a vocational program for baking and graduated, did very well. She's actually on a wait list for a local college here to get into doing a baking program there. It's supposed to be like a 2-year wait list, which she applied 2 years ago, and she still hasn't heard anything because I think with COVID that made the wait list even longer because everybody here has been doing university college from home. Basically with COVID, everybody had to do most of their stuff from home. So I think that basically messed everything up. So the 2-year wait list seems to have become even longer. But the point is, she took this baking program in high school and did very, very well at it. And it's a field of study she wants to get into in college, but yet she doesn't practice baking very much at home. Usually she'll tell me all the recipes and stuff I make that she likes, and she still prefers that I make them. So I don't know if it's just a case of, she's been out of this for 3 years now, so she's out of practice and is forgetting how to do it, or she just is, this is like, oh, these are mom's recipes and I love mom and nobody can make them like mom, so mom, please make me these are your recipes, so please make them. It's like a comfort of home sort of thing, or what. I don't mind though, although I would like to, if this is the area of study she wants to go into, I would like to see her get back and practice at it again. One of those, maybe not like a lose it or use it kind of thing, but to me it's like, well, still, if this is something you want to do, study at a college level and do as a career, you do want to stay on top of your skills a little bit, I would think. But whichever, I don't mind making them for her. She likes my baking, and a lot of people do like things that their mom makes. She also has memories of different things that her grandmother baked that she likes and has fond memories of, like rhubarb pie, for instance. And I have made her that, but she specifically wanted me to get her grandmother's recipe to make it, because nobody can make that like grandma. So maybe this is kind of like the same thing where nobody can make mom's recipes when it comes to banana bread like mom. All right, so those are the two. They are, whoops, this is turning on me here. I'm gonna go put those in the oven. One way.
says for about 1 hour, so we'll set the timer for 60 minutes. But if I was a little bit over the 2 cups on the bananas, then it might take a little bit more than 60 minutes. We will see. Whoops, I'm dropping the phone. It's on this tripod, but it's not completely steady. So we'll see. And then we will see how it turns out. I'll show you how they turned out. They may take a little more than an hour. Like I said, if I have a little bit more banana in there than what it called for. And the one pan is bigger than the other, so one might take exactly 60 minutes. One might take 70, but approximately an hour. I'll start with 60 minutes and see how it goes. And once they're done out of the oven, I will show you how they turned out. I'll be back in a bit. Okay, it is 5:13 and it is time to turn off the oven. I finally got the banana breads out of the oven. They did take about 10-12 minutes longer than the usual hour, just because, well, one pan is a little bit bigger, so it always does take a little bit longer. 60 minutes or an hour in the cookbook is pretty much just a guide. And yeah, so that took a little bit longer. The slightly smaller one did too. There's a good bit of bananas in there and stuff, plus the chocolate chips. They look quite well done. Like, I know the edges look a little bit dark, but I took them out 10 minutes ago and checked them, and they were still a little bit of gooiness coming out on the toothpick, so I put them back in. So even though the edges are a teeny tiny bit dark, that's just the very corner pieces. Once you get slicing it, the rest of the pieces, it'll be totally fine. But edges being a bit dark or not, the center needed to be fully cooked through. So anyway, they're out of the oven, and the oven is back turned off again. Thank goodness for air conditioning in this place. There's another hot day out there. Turning on the oven isn't always ideal when it's hot outside, but I've been in the mood to bake for a little while, and banana bread's always a favorite, plus my daughter had requested it. So one of them, I'm not sure which, we'll get, once they're cool, I'll pop them out of the other pans, and I'll wrap them both up in saran wrap. One will be for slicing and eating during this week. You can see the flecks of the walnuts in there. And the other one will be wrapped up in saran and then put in a large freezer bag and labeled and put in the freezer. So I like to have some baking in the freezer on hand in case we have company. If it's last second company, obviously things like that won't thaw out ahead of time. But if I know that we're going to have somebody over for coffee tomorrow afternoon, for instance, or if I know that I need to take a loaf to a church function or something, then I know I have something already made if I don't have time to bake something fresh. Now again, I won't take these to a church function or something like that where I don't know who'll be consuming them, just because they do have walnuts in these. But I do have some other, I have a banana eggnog recipe actually, and I think I still have one of those loaves downstairs. So that's actually really quite good too, and that also takes a bit of extra time baking because the eggnog is it makes it very moist, so you really have to budget enough time to cook it through when you make that. Perhaps closer to Christmas time I'll have to share that recipe, so somebody remind me. If that's something you're interested in, please comment below and make sure you remind me closer to Christmas, and I will have to film myself making that and or share the recipe. It's actually really quite good. Anyway, that is enough for now. I thought just wanted to bring you along for this. I know it's a simple recipe. Banana bread is a pretty common thing. It's not gourmet. Most of you probably already know how to make it, but I'm trying to slowly but surely increase the number of videos I make, and thought I would do something different than just a standard grocery haul and folding laundry and throw a few cooking videos in here. So if you enjoyed it, that's great, and please do reflect that by leaving a comment below and giving this a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe if you are new, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a great weekend, everyone.